Good evening, viewers. We're going to play around a bit on the third wave here, and I have been setting up a very simple init light patch, which is more customized in my taste, which is more old-fashioned. Because you know the third wave has its own type of init light patch template, which it's a little bit special. However, I think that we should take a look at something I find quite interesting, which is the super saw in the analog. So we are just running one oscillator in this case. And we have the super saw here. And already when you change the wave offset, it behaves... it begins to make some wave beating or phasing, something like that. It's like it's adding some more saws together with slightly detuned each, it sounds like. And in this case I noticed that we can make the sound even more interesting if we add an LFO to it, modulating the wave offset. So let's add the first one. Changing the speed a bit. We can make things even more interesting by adding some pan spread to the middle. And we have the nice Prophet 5 Rev 4 filter here. Can add up some resonance. Let's add some release time on the amp envelope. We can do the same, try to change the filter a bit with envelope amount. And if we take it more to the mono way, it would sound like this without pan spread. And we can also add another super saw. And when we do that, I'm going to point out that if you want not to distort any signal, we should not keep the oscillator, the sum of them, to be more than 100. So one could be 60, one could be 40 in the volume here. And I'm going to change the wavetable to super saw. We tune it down like 1 octave. We can record a sequence also. Let's make it like 2 measures. I think I didn't get it recorded, I was a bit sloppy there. We can use quantize to get it more tight. Okay, this will make it a little bit easier for me to fiddle around with the sound. And we're adding some chorus, changing down the mix level a bit, adding a lot of depth. Going to reduce it to around 200. I think we should do that the filter will open more when on the higher parts. now we're just talking. And let's add some pan spread. Let's change the second oscillator to become more of a perfect fifth. We can add some saturation. We can use the digital filter. Shape it a little bit in the first phase, first step I mean. We can also use the additional envelopes here to use the filter, the second filter, to be modulated in a different way. Wonderful. Third oscillator a bit. If we would remove the pan spread, it will get more tighter in the stereo image. I prefer to have it like half open. Full open would be like that. To make things a bit more dirty, we can take the modulation source to use a noise source to modulate the analog filter. Just a bit, like 2 steps perhaps. Sound like this then. I like it. Let's turn off the chorus. We could add like bucket brigade delay, I mean. And you can add some clock sync. However, when I bought this synthesizer, I was very much considering like to get the module or the keyboard version. I'm absolutely love the keyboard version of every synthesizer, but this one was a hard decision because, as you might know, the module really looks good also. But I really like that we have dedicated buttons for the envelope 3/4, not sharing them with their filter and amplitude envelopes, and we have dedicated buttons here for each effect, internal effect. Even if I use not internal effect that much, it's really nice to have them, have control over them, and the clock sync button is something I would really miss if it didn't exist. What can I say? I love this synthesizer. The reason I love it is that it's the sound character of it can be like clear, it can be a little bit lo-fi if you want, and that's what I like. And also, thanks to the 8-bit wavetable like the PPG, they have added, which is the from the PPG Wave 2.5, I guess, inspired. I mean, I'm getting sort of sound that reminds me so much of video game, you know, like PlayStation, the first console. I don't know why, but I love that so much. I guess it's a travel back to the childhood. But the reason I don't think that PPG didn't have anything to do with that, of course, but it's like the character really reminds me of how that sounded. And I'm going to say that the second filter on the third wave, it's comes very handy because it can grab the harmonics in an interesting way. And even if it's digital, I mean, it's good, I think, that they have a digital filter. Imagine if everything would be analog, because here you have a possibility to get more precise grabbing of harmonic and things like that before it runs into the low pass filter. So everything first enters the digital filter where you can shape up things a bit more, and then you can finally step is the analog filter. It's really nice. So far I've been only using this synthesizer for one part, maximum 2 parts, just to test it. What I think is that it's something interesting to know is that when you're using the multitimbrality on it, you do not like press the second part and then scroll which program you want to use. That's not really how it works on this synthesizer. Instead, you can either edit the part and save it. All the 2, 3, 4 parts will be saved into the patch, which is the first part then. But it doesn't have to be the first part. The patch can be like second, third, fourth, but all these parts are like in the same program. But that's not really a problem, because if you have other sounds located on the third wave, you just go to the mode and then you copy from sound and what part from that sound you copy into the current program in the part you want to have it. I think it's very genius, because for that reason you do not risk to change, edit the sound, and then it becomes a dependency, like a pointer to somewhere that will point to a damaged sound, or I mean edited. So for that reason I love this approach very much. On the other hand, the only negative thing is that you can't select the part and scroll directly to the sound very easily. But that covers up all the pointer confusion you will have instead. So this is very nice. And I would say that the Prophet 5-ish filter here is so good. And you have the saturation, like without. You can crank it up a bit more. Again, there is some dirty distortion. Who doesn't like that? And if anyone wonder, this keypad, this nice keypad, Fatar keypad, is, I would say it's the same that you find in a Rev 2, because that's Fatar also, and it feels identical when I play on them both. I'm not sure if that's the case, but they feel identical according to me, if you wonder how it feels like. One thing important to point out when it comes to the filters are that the digital filter is not very steep. So you will expect like, I can do some crazy things like sculpting very nice and narrow with these things. It doesn't work like that really, but that's for a good reason, because I think that's way more interesting. This reminds very much like an Oberheim filter, which I think it should be like inspired from, but digital instead. But it's very good, trust me. I can say that it feels like I've been scratching only the surface on this synth. It's so deep and complex. One thing I want to give a nice advice on is that when you're using the LFOs, if you want to modulate something on number 1 LFO with number 4, for example, or 3, doesn't matter. The fun thing is that if you press and hold, you can continue to hold and press the destination LFO, and then you can change whatever that should change, you know. So right now, by doing that, means that I could modulate from oscillator 3, LFO3 I mean, to modulate LFO1 and the mount. That's very handy and genius. I mean, for this reason you can assign things from LFO to LFO very quick if you want to make some crazy modulating other things then. I'm not quite sure how that works with the desktop version, since it doesn't have these buttons dedicated here, because you're using the screen buttons here instead. Okay, I think I'm talking too much. Perhaps we should do some other sounds. This is a pad sound I made before. Super lush. I mean, if I would say how this synthesizer feels like, I would say it's definitely not replacing any Prophet, definitely not replacing any of your Trigon OB6 or your Pro 2, Pro 3 for example. But this is in its own league, I would say. It feels digital in the oscillator, of course, because it is, but it has this nice, more living sound, organic, because of this architecture, combining the digital with the analog in the right way. I find this to be the tool I didn't know existed that I really wanted to have. I've always been like a fan of wavetable oscillators, wavetable synthesizers. I started to realize how nice it was when I had a Pro 3, which I believe is the same. I think Bob Cora also designed the wavetable on the Pro 3. And for that reason I realized that how nice it integrated with analog filter. So I wanted to have like a poly with a lot of modulation sources and things like that, and suddenly I discovered that this was created, and couldn't resist to buy it, even if it's expensive. But you will get a lot of synth for that money. I mean, it's 4 parts, and it sounds like nothing I ever heard before. Also a patch I made some moments ago. This is just using one oscillator. It's using a PPG oscillator number 2, and I'm moving in the wave offset by using one of the LFO, just a slightly mount. And on the other sound I played before, that is a pad sound, this one. What basically this is, let's have a look at it. I'm going to see. First oscillator is a sawtooth, and that's much about it actually. It's just a sawtooth. The sawtooth has a pulse width at center, and it's modulated. Pulse width modulation is modulated by the LFO1, just a slightly mount. And I have some pan spread on, just to spread out the voices, else it would see and sound like this. Much more narrow, but not bad. But the pan spread is really a secret sauce. Wave flow is on. How will it sound without? Not sure. I'm not even sure if this is affecting the analog waveforms. I think it's more for the wavetable waveforms then. So it didn't make any sense right now. Another thing is that to get that little extra, it's that I'm using a noise source just to modulate just a tiny bit on the cutoff. Here also the bandpass, it's enabled for the digital filter, and I'm not quite sure if I didn't have any destination on that one. So it's just modulated by, let's see if I can get any information of this. No envelope amount. So what it basically is, it's just no resonance, just to narrow it up a bit. It's huge. I turn off the bandpass. Now it's a good moment to have a listen at the state variable filter, the digital one. Keeping it close, opening it more and more. And as you might see here, is that it's not really steep actually. It cannot self-oscillate either. Full resonance. Keep in mind it's a digital now, not the analog. That would blow your ear then. But that's useful. I mean, the reason why I think it's good not to have it self-oscillating is that it can grab the harmonics in a controlled way then. And then passing it through the analog filter will keep it nice and tidy. Man, I really can't stop playing this thing. I mean, it's really capturing the attention. Alright, I think that I'm not really a reviewer. I'm not interested in reviewing things, but I think that I can tell a little bit about my thought was, and perhaps this will be good for anyone deciding between the keyboard or the module version then. For me it was that it's very interesting because in the beginning I didn't like the design of this synthesizer, how it looked like, and that's my honest opinion in the beginning. I didn't even know what the PPG was, but later on when I was looking at it and I was thinking, thank God I'm not interested in this expensive synthesizer and I just want to have analog gear, and I had so much analog gear. And then later listening to the sound character of it, I realized that, perhaps I want this synthesizer and I really want it so bad. And then I started to like the design very much, but I was not really convinced, you know. Then the module was released, and wow, that design was really mind-blowing, I think, for a module. But then later on I was thinking, it has a lot of controls, like most of the things were there. But thanks to the limitation, they need to make a smaller sacrifice for the panel layout. I think they do a really good job. It's not menu diving, not too much. I mean, it's not menu diving, but more like you need to swap pages sometimes. But then I was thinking, well, perhaps I want to have the keyboard version so I really get all these controls, because I really want to keep this instrument as long as it's able to run. And then I was thinking, well, then it's keyboard version of it. And then I started to like this more and more, especially when it was arriving, because this color looks amazing in real life. It's like a metallic blue. The buttons, perhaps they do not show the correct color. Perhaps I don't see the correct color, but according to a doctor I do. But these are more like in an orange color in real life, like going from red orange-ish, you know. So it's the blue color and the orange. It's really pretty. It's really nice. And the buttons feels really good. I mean, they are like, you feel your finger covers it really well, and it's really clicky, confirming and good. The potentiometers on this synthesizer are like a little bit wiggly, but not that bad. I mean, it's not more worse than like a Jupiter X, for example, which I have and I love. It's not that they are not deadly bolted onto the surface, like that's not how it is. I think that would be a really much more expensive synthesizer then. But you do not feel any like quality weirdness. No, you don't do that. It feels really good. And I like also that we have a control for 3 oscillators, even if we are only programming most of the time one oscillator each, and on an wavetable synth you're so much into the menu, not menu, but selecting, like you select the wavetable, you go to wave to have a look where you are in the index sometimes, perhaps sometimes you don't. And for that reason I think having us control for one and moving to the next one is okay also on the module. But what I really find super handy is that just to have these controls here, mostly for pitch and perhaps fine tune sometimes, but most pitch and level. these are the three ones I really need. And wave offset is really nice because it's like you're blending color on a palette, you know. So for that reason, I really love the keyboard version. And one detail I really love much, I don't know why, but it's this transpose. It goes with a really nice click sound. It's very tactile and a nice feeling. So with all that being said, I think that this is a unique synthesizer that's really worth to have a look at. And you get so much for the money, even if it's a high price tag. It's like you're getting 4 6-voice synthesizers. I really can't complain about it, you know. It's because I promise you that most of the time I think you want to use all the 4 parts and that you will get so much sound and instrument and have individual outputs for 4 parts you can add to if you want. So I will do more videos on it, lesser talking and more programming. Take care now.